going through in that time. And it wasn't until I went to Jesus and I laid my life at the foot of the cross and I said, Lord, you have the answer. I'm turning to you. That's when I broke through. And so a lot of times we have this idea that we have to have special circumstances, special treatment, when God has everything that we need if we would go to him. There is an incredible story, a book that I highly recommend. It's called Evidence Not Seen by Darlene Deibler Rose. And it's this woman's story of she was a missionary with her husband, and they were in the Indonesia area. And the Japanese took over during World War II, and so they were both captured as prisoners. And she had lost her husband. He was killed, and so she was alone, and she was put into the hands of the Kampeitai, which were a lot of people consider worse than the Nazis in their treatment of prisoners. And she was this young woman, like 23, 24 years old, put in this prison cell, held at the hands of the Kampeitai in the most horrific. She was being tortured. She was being starved. She was deathly sick. Just some of the most horrific conditions you could ever imagine. If anybody had the excuse or the reason to say, I'm going to allow my emotions to take over, I have every reason to feel sorry for myself right now, I have every reason to give in to despair, and it would be a woman like this. And yet she clung to God in that time. She clung to the promises of God in that time. And she was literally an instrument of change, both to guards and to other prisoners. And when she got out, her story went all over the world, not because of anything she did in her own strength, but because she chose to cling to him in that time. But one of the key things that she learned when she was in prison is that she could not let her faith in God depend upon her feelings, because she was in a very dark place. And this was something that she wrote when she was in solitary confinement, and she didn't feel the presence of God near in her life. She said, Lord, where have you gone? What have I said or done to grieve you? Why have you withdrawn your presence from me? My prayers, my expressions of worship seem to go no higher than the ceiling. There was no sounding board. I sank to the floor and quietly and purposely began to search the scriptures hidden in my heart. I quoted Numbers 23:19. God is not a man that he should lie. Hath he said, and shall he not do it? Lord, I believe all that the Bible says. I do walk by faith and not by sight. I do not need to feel you near, because your word says that you will never leave me or forsake me. Lord, I confirm my faith, I believe. The words of Hebrews 11:1 welled up unbeckoned to fill my mind. Now faith is the substance of things hoped for, the evidence of things not seen. The evidence of things not seen, the evidence not seen. That was what I put my trust in, not in feelings or in moments of ecstasy, but in the unchanging person of Jesus Christ. So if you have struggled with fear, with doubt, with self-pity, with feeling that God is not near but that he is distant, this is a key truth, because your relationship with God, your trust in him, your confidence and your hope should not lie in the sense of him being near or feeling like he's near or in mountaintop spiritual experiences, but in the unchanging person of Jesus Christ. Your feelings will come up and down. The sense of whether he's near or distant will go up and down, but he is unchanging. He is the same yesterday, today, and forever. And if he said it and he cannot lie, then there's really nothing more that we need to worry about. So if you're struggling with doubt, fear, or self-pity, here are some important promises that you need to remember, and to say, this is true, whether this feels true or not. I choose to confirm that this is true in my life. He will never forsake us. He will give us perfect peace. His love will cast out every fear. When we seek him, we will find him. He will give us power over sin. He will give us power over the enemy. He will fill our hearts with unspeakable joy. He will provide for our every need. When we look to him, we will never be ashamed. When I was going through that season before Ellerslie started, I had to look at these promises and just cling to them, because nothing in my life really felt like they were true. It's like, God, if you never are going to leave me or forsake me, why are my kids sick? Why is my house falling apart? Why do we have all these amazing attacks against us? Why are our family members turning against us? And yet I clung to these promises, and I said, it does not matter how I feel or what my circumstances say. This is true, because God has said it, and he cannot lie. And that's what brought me through to victory. And the circumstances and the feelings did eventually line up with these promises, but I had to first choose to stand in faith. 2 important questions about God's promises. Did God say it? And can God lie? If you're questioning anything about God, if you're struggling with any doubt about God, ask yourself those 2 questions and clear away all the fog of your emotion and all the fog of your circumstances and all the fog of your past experience and all the fog of other people's past experience and their words, and just ask those 2 simple questions. Because if you will move forward and walk forward based on that reality that God said it and he cannot lie, then you can triumph through any and every circumstance.